Kia ora everyone and welcome to today's Dream Team session brought to you by the Sir Peter Blake Trust. My name is Mike McRoberts and these Dream Team sessions feature inspiring Kiwis who want to encourage Kiwi kids to follow their dreams. So thanks so much for joining us. These inspiring people follow in the footsteps of one of our greatest leaders, Sir Peter Blake, who led Team New Zealand to victory for the America's Cup for the first time in 1995. Sir Peter was also a leader for the environmental work he did, in particular encouraging people to care for our oceans. Today we're going to hear from pole vaulting star Eliza McCartney, who most recently won a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games. She also became the youngest Olympic medalist in the women's pole vault in 2016. She's 21 years old from Auckland, and we're thrilled to have Eliza with us today to share her story. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, pole vault is one of those sports that you don't kind of automatically get into as a youngster, is it? I mean, so how did you get involved with pole vaulting?
Well, so when I was a kid, I did all sorts of sports. I played everything I could, from the normal ones like netball and touch rugby, but I also did skiing and orienteering and, all sorts of sports. So when I started athletics, it was just another sport to try. And I started high jump and I really enjoyed high jump, and I started going to competitions and I saw pole vault and I just thought, well, that's another one that I want to give a go. And I never really had any intention of trying to go to the Olympics for it or anything like that. It really stemmed from the fact that I really enjoyed it and I was curious and I wanted to give it a go. And I just started. I just started with the coach that I have now, Jeremy McCall, and at the Millennium where I train now as well.
Can you still remember the first time you'd completed your first successful pole vault? Yeah,
I mean, the first time you bend a pole is quite a strange thing. And you do kind of start with a straight pole, so it doesn't bend, and it's really not that different from if a kid got a stick in their garden and they put it in the ground and they jumped over something. That's almost essentially how you start. And so when you first bend the pole, that's quite a different experience. And it's a funny thing, it kind of slingshots you almost into the air a little bit, and it's such an unusual feeling that I actually do remember the exact training quite clearly when I very first tried that. And it never gets old, really.
Yeah, because it's completely weird. You're like propelling yourself backwards and upside down and over, and there's a lot of things to consider when you're doing that. But did it feel like a real rush?
Yeah, it does, and it still does. So when you really catch the timing right, you're upside down and you're pushing off the top of the pole, and when you're doing that, if you've caught the timing right, the pole's just unbent, so all of the energy that was in the pole is gone into you, and it just pushes you up in the air. And so you still get that rush when you do the vault perfectly and you feel that pop it gives you at the top. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things and one of the reasons why we love watching you pole vault so much, because you see that enjoyment coming out and you see how thrilled you are to do it.
Yeah, no, it is a fun event, and it's hard work like most sports. You have to train hard, and it's not always easy, of course, but you've got to get through those tough times to get to the best parts, and of course that makes it all worth it once you're there.
Doing something you love, does that make it easier to become more successful at it?
I absolutely agree with that, yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to be following what you enjoy and not necessarily following what you think you should be doing, what other people are telling you should be doing. I think it's really important to stick to your guns and decide, well, I really like this, I love doing it makes me happy, and so I'm going to keep doing it. And I think that's where a lot of motivation and determination comes from. That's where it builds from the fact that you're enjoying what you're doing, and then you can motivate yourself to get up every day and do it.
But it is a road less travelled, isn't it, in terms of pole vaulting in New Zealand. So how did you work out your pathway to become an Olympian and a medalist?
Well, I was really lucky that my coach was incredibly helpful, and in athletics we've got really obvious steps. When I was a bit younger, we had the World Youth Championships, which is under 18, and then the World Juniors, which is under 20, and then you go on to the senior level. So there's good steps to follow. But in terms of being a New Zealander, pole vaulting, there wasn't many people who had done that pathway before, but my coach Jeremy is amazing, and he's always guided me to the right decisions and to the right competitions that we should do. And it's just a matter of just keep looking forward and not really considering what other people are doing so much, especially when you're beginning. You don't want to be comparing yourself to everybody else. You want to be following your own pathway. And I mean, that's what could create greatness. So it's worth just, I suppose, sticking your head up there and just going for it.
You mentioned your coach, Jeremy, a bit, but what about your family and friends in terms of support, and how important is that to achieving these goals?
It's hugely important. I think I'm just so incredibly lucky to have the support of my family. No matter what competition I'm at, they're always there. They follow me around the world to a lot of my competitions, and I'm just incredibly grateful, because I think that's what makes it extra special as well, when you achieve something amazing on the world stage and I can just look across into the crowd and I can see my family there. I think that's really important. But on top of that, of course, you've got your athlete support groups. So High Performance Sport New Zealand and Athletics New Zealand are both massive support groups for me, and they provide things like medical support and nutritional support and all sorts of different areas, so that you're able to do what you do best, and you have these people that can jump in and help you when you need. So it makes a huge difference. I mean, I don't think anybody could do it by themselves. You do need the support.
It seems like you've had this absolute dream career so far, but have there been obstacles along the way? Have there been things you've needed to get over or overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it happens in every career, and it's maybe not so obvious as well to people watching when it's hard and when it's not working so well, and often people just remember the good times, which is great. But yes, of course you have to overcome the hard parts, and that's just part of it. I mean, there's a lot of tough times when training's hard, or you go to a competition and you just don't achieve what you want to, but that's what really drives you to go back out and do it again and do it 100% again. And, you know, maybe that time it won't work, but it will come eventually if you just keep putting in the hard yards. And I think it's important to remember that if you can get through the tough times, then it makes it all the more sweeter when you finally achieve what you've been going after.
So I've been lucky enough to see you compete at two major stages. One was the Rio Olympics in 2016, and then just recently at the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast. What's it like walking out in that black uniform, representing New Zealand and being on the world stage?
Oh, it is an incredible feeling. It's like no other when you walk out there and you're wearing the black uniform with a silver fern on it, and the crowd just goes wild because you've just walked out, and that's just incredible. And especially at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, it was phenomenal how many Kiwis there were in the crowd, and I think a lot of Australians were supporting the Kiwis as well. And so when I was introduced, I couldn't believe how loud the crowd was. That was just amazing, and it just feels so special, and it gives you that extra little bit of adrenaline and motivation, I think, in the competition.
Is it an added pressure?
I think it can be. It depends how you choose to feel it. I know a lot of athletes, and I'm very much guilty of this myself, is that the most pressure is coming from yourself. You're putting all that pressure on yourself, when really I know that my family are proud of me no matter what, and I know that the country is watching and are proud of watching New Zealanders and how they go no matter what. And so I think it's really important to use that pressure, and instead of making it a negative thing, turning it into a really positive energy and turning it into adrenaline, which you always need when you're competing, and making it work for you and not making it a negative thought, because then it just becomes difficult.
So be excited rather than nervous.
Exactly. We use excited energy. Excited, nervous energy, I think, is a great one.
Yeah, because I guess, you know, when we've seen you at your best, you've just been really enjoying it, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, when you can capture that enjoyment, it makes such a big difference.
It does, and I think certainly for me, I find that if I'm enjoying it, it relaxes me a little bit more as well, and sometimes you can just get overexcited, and that's not always a good thing either. And so if I often will just be smiling to myself, because that just reminds me that, you know, A, to relax, but B, that I've already made it here, and I've already trained so hard to get here, and it's nothing new. I'm just doing the same thing that I've been doing every day back home, and so I just got to do it again right now. And I think it just grounds you a little bit better, and then you can go out and really attack it.
Well, thanks to following you at the Commonwealth Games, we've all become absolute specialists in pole vault competitions now. You've actually taught us how to watch a pole vault competition. Because there's quite a lot of tactics involved, isn't there?
Yes, there is. There can be, certainly at the top level. And so the way it works is you have to clear a height within 3 attempts. And you can use those 3 attempts on any height. So say I was attempting a height and I missed the first 2 attempts, I can then pass to a higher height and use my last attempt on that one, and that might put me into the gold medal above somebody who's jumped the lower height. So you can be incredibly tactical about how you get up there, because a lot of medals are won on countback, which means that 3 people might have all jumped the same height, but then they jumped a better height sooner earlier on in the competition. And so it's really important that you get your tactics right, and that you that you don't mess it up, obviously, because that could make you a medalist, or it could not.
And when you've been going out to schools and talking to people since you've been back home, do people appreciate that now, that side of the competition, the tactics and the things you need to be thinking about when you're doing it?
Yeah, I think people really do appreciate that now. And so that was really cool that was such a great competition for New Zealanders to watch, because I think a lot of people did learn a lot about how a pole vault competition works and how it's, I mean, I had to wait for 2 hours after warming up before I jumped, and all those sorts of little things that people may not have realised. And of course that creates interest in the event, and that creates more people wanting to try athletics and get involved, and so that's really exciting to see.
OK, now we've asked some students to write in some questions too, so I'm going to throw a couple of these at you, and this is a great one to start off with. How did it feel when you won your medal?
Well, when I won the Rio Olympic medal, that was just a feeling that I'm not even sure I could ever top again. It was just a moment of raw and pure emotion, and it was happiness combined with relief, combined with just excitement, combined with just every emotion, and it just is so overwhelming that I just don't even know what to do with myself. It was just incredible, and on top of that I was able to celebrate it with my family right there and then, because they were in Rio with us as well. So that was just beyond anything I think I've ever experienced. And the Commonwealth medal was much the same. It's never disappointing to win a medal for your country, absolutely never. So it's always a raw emotion that comes out.
I think I can safely say that you had the whole of the country in tears watching you both of those medal occasions. But yeah, it is an amazing feeling, isn't it? And it must make you so proud to be a New Zealander.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you do really notice that out on the world stage that, I mean, we are a small country, but we're a big sporting nation, and I know a lot of people just really get behind the sports people representing New Zealand, and you really do feel that, especially in a New Zealand team, like in the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games. The way the team is held and put together over there, you really just feel like you're a part of something really big and special, and you feel the legacy and the history of all our sporting achievements, and it's just one of those moments where you just feel very special to be there.
Got another student question for you. What do you say to yourself just before you start the run-up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get asked it a lot. No, it's a really great question. So often it's just something along the lines of like, you know, I can do this, I've got this, I'm going to go and give it everything, I'm going to give it 100%, I'm going to attack it, like that sort of thing is a lot of what goes through my head. But then I also am telling myself little points I need to remember. So like I need to kick really hard when I jump in the air, and I need to run really fast, those sorts of things.
You actually physically say this to yourself, don't you? Because you can see your lips. Well, you can't hear what you're saying, but
yeah,
you are actually talking to yourself.
Yeah, I know. It's probably what a lot of athletes do in their head, so they may not be saying it, but it's what you would think before you do something. And I think the reason I start mouthing it is because I'm so in the moment, and it makes it real, and it makes it right there and then, and that really helps me to feel like I'm just ready to go.
So, a question from Mike McRoberts. So, when you are running with the pole, I mean, do you have anything else in your mind? I mean, do you know the crowds there, or do you know the stadiums there? I mean, what are you thinking? Yeah,
there's certainly time to be thinking about other things, and I do realise sometimes when I'm running down the runway, completely random thought will pop into my head, and it's quite bizarre because you're trying to be focused and suddenly something random will pop in. But at the major competitions, once I start running, it's all on. I'm just staring straight at the box where I plant the pole, and I stared at that box the whole way down the runway, and I'm completely focused on what I'm doing. And during the jump, I'm trying to remember exactly the couple points that I've been thinking that I really need to improve. But other than that, that's really all I think about. But then when you do go over the bar and you're falling down to the mat, you certainly have time to think then. You see a lot of people reacting either happy or sad when they're falling onto the mat still.
Yeah, because I don't think people realise, but there's a lot going on in the stadium too. You've got often track events, and I think on the night that you were competing in the Gold Coast, you had Dame Valerie Adams also competing. So, lots to be pumped up about, lots to be taking in, yeah?
Yeah, athletics events are really cool like that because there's always something going on in the stadium. There's always a big crowd, and there's always multiple field events and a running race all at the same time. And so you might be standing on the runway ready to go, and the crowd could be super loud because someone's about to cross the finish line in a race. And so it brings a lot of adrenaline and a lot of energy. And so you've just got this great atmosphere that you can really feed from if you choose to.
So what tips would you give to kids out there who are watching this who who want to start putting a pathway to something that they want to do, have a goal or a dream in mind that they want to achieve?
Well, I think it's really important to never get too narrow-minded, because I certainly am very guilty of doing that sometimes. And so I think it's really important to look at all your opportunities and look at what you enjoy doing, and not just say, I'm going to go down this one. You know, you want to be open to everything that's in front of you, because, I mean, you never know what you might end up doing. I certainly didn't think I'd ever be a pole vaulter. That's completely random, but it just ended up happening because I just wanted to try it one day. So I think it's really important to just be open-minded, but also follow what you're enjoying, and it will naturally just lead you down to what you're going to be best at because of who you are.
And I think one of the things, just as an observation, is to enjoy the steps, enjoy the milestones or the successes that come your way, and you've certainly done that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's really easy to get caught up in the moment and to lose perspective and not realise that actually what you're doing is great and you're achieving a lot already. And sometimes you can lose perspective and just feel like you didn't do so well and that you're not doing very well at the moment. But really, actually, you've worked so hard to get here and you're already doing so well. So I think it's so important to be able to step back and say, hey, actually, you know what, I did really well there and I really enjoyed it and I want to keep going.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Eliza, for sharing your story today. You're inspiring the next generation of Kiwi leaders, and we're excited to see where their dream takes them. If you're at home watching this, now's the time to think about your own dreams, both for yourself and for New Zealand. So go to dreambank.co.nz and submit your dreams. Writing your dream down is the very first step towards achieving it. Remember to check out our other Dream Team sessions with incredible Kiwis at sirpeterblaketrust.org. Enjoy Leadership Week, everyone, and remember, dream big and believe you can.